So the trailer for A Very Good Night showed us something really interesting about Lila's actual plan for this episode. And there's a specific reason why the fight takes place on the moon. And it has to do with Marinette and proving whether she's actually Ladybug or not. So let's talk about some things you might have missed in this trailer, because something pretty clever is going on here. First thing, the real reason why the fight is on the moon and Lila's master plan. A lot of people were wondering why this Akuma battle is happening on the moon, and that's actually a pretty interesting question, because, number one, how is there even an akumatized person on the moon? We've already seen that akumas don't have like an infinite range or anything like that. In fact, the akumatization range isn't that big, which is something they played with in the London special. The reason the fight takes place on the moon actually runs much deeper. It's not a coincidence at all. Lila most likely chose the moon on purpose to check whether Marinette was still in Paris. After all, if the fight happens on the moon, nothing serious would be going on back in Paris. Lila already has her suspicions about Marinette, so if Marinette is nowhere to be seen during the moon fight, that would basically confirm them. These kinds of logical tactics are things Gabriel would have never thought of, right? How many times did the only people who disappeared from class happen to be Adrien and Marinette? Gabriel, with his own son, sure, but with Marinette, never once suspected she could be Ladybug. But Lila is the complete opposite. Plus, A Very Good Night is chronologically, or at least in production order, one of the later episodes. Not the last one, but it's pretty far along in the timeline. So by this point, technically the events of Derision would have already happened. And in Derision, we already saw that Marinette was under serious suspicion of being Ladybug, thanks to the cameras Lila put in the theater, and because literally at the end of that episode, Lila tells Tomoe Tsurugi that she's sure Marinette is Ladybug. So this is actually a solid plan. What better way to test her theory that Marinette is Ladybug than by taking the fight to the moon? Taking the fight somewhere super far away. What's better than getting her off planet Earth entirely? And that way, she could confirm that, yeah, if Marinette isn't in Paris at that moment, then that would mean she's Ladybug. After Derision, I think the series took a really interesting direction in the sense that everything Marinette does from that moment forward is under suspicion. So I don't think a plan like this is far-fetched at all. Honestly, I would never have thought of it because I think we're used to Gabriel being presented with so many opportunities to think logically, and he never did. But Lila is a complete different story. So this plan makes a lot of sense to me. What do you think about this? Do you think this is the reason the fight takes place on the moon? Besides that, second thing, we now have the synopsis and the first official release date for this episode. The synopsis says, Max's mother is leaving soon for a space mission, and when Marinette hears the news, she has an idea to help Max deal with the separation. The release date for this episode is April 18th on Disney Channel, which is like 2 months away, so don't worry, probably our saviors Gloob and TF1 might release it earlier. The fact that they released a trailer yesterday or the day before means they probably already have the episode ready. And it's actually really weird that they released it out of nowhere, considering there was no other release date until April. If that were the case, the trailer probably would have come out like late March or early April. So this gives me a suspicion that another broadcaster is going to release this episode before Disney Channel. On the other hand, the synopsis is basically telling us that Marinette wants to help Max with this separation. And Max's mom is going on a mission, which means she's going to be away for quite a while. Not just a day, but for a significant amount of time away from Earth. So Marinette wants to help Max deal with this. But what I don't understand is what I mentioned in the analysis a few days ago, where I said there's a scene where Max clearly only has one change of clothes. So why would he only bring one change of clothes if he's staying for several days? And they're painting it as a separation. That still doesn't make sense to me, but I guess the episode will explain it. Now, the next question we need to ask is how could someone be akumatized if they're on the moon? How can there be an Akuma on the moon, especially since we've seen in the London special that Akuma ranges vary from city to city? Like you leave the city and the Akuma doesn't reach. So how would it reach outer space? That's a really good question, and we still don't know. But we have two options. Number one, which could be the most likely because we already saw it in Derision, is that the Akuma was placed inside Max's mom's spaceship beforehand. But the question here is, how did she put it there? Like, how did she sneak the akumatization in? She would have to akumatize her before she goes to the moon? Or if the akumatization happens on planet Earth and then she goes to the moon, that would make sense. But it's still very strange. The other option, which honestly I doubt, but I'm not ruling out because Lila has powers that Gabriel himself didn't seem to have, is that Lila's ultra-akumas are much more powerful than Gabriel's mega-akumas, meaning the range of these chrysalis ultra-akumas is much broader. I genuinely don't think this is going to be the case, because, like I said, I don't think Lila can boost akumas to that level. And in any case, we're still talking about outer space, not just another country. It would be very curious, very weird, but I'm not going to completely rule it out. Third option is that the akumatization happens on planet Earth, and then things get out of control from there. Another question. If Ladybug and Cat Noir can fly, why does Pegasus need to open a portal for them? To get there faster, right? That would be the obvious answer. But, I mean, I guess with flying powers, they wouldn't take that long to reach the moon either. I think it's simply because it's easier and faster to get to the moon through Pegasus's portal, and if they flew, it would take a couple more minutes. Minutes that are crucial because they're fighting an Akuma and want to save the akumatized person. Next point, why does Max leave Marinette's house? Or rather, why is he even at Marinette's house? There are a lot of questions here, but thanks to comments, we can kind of figure it out. Someone said in the trailer, Max isn't leaving Marinette's house, he's at Marinette's house and he's going to stay to sleep. But not in the same room as Marinette. He's simply closing the door to the guest room where he's going to sleep. You can tell because the lighting isn't from a street, and next to the door there's a light switch for the room. The light switch thing makes sense, and actually this makes more sense because if we look, the akumatization happens during the night in Paris. When Pegasus opens the portal, it's nighttime. But when Max goes to sleep, it's barely sunset. It's not night yet, it's not when the akumatization happens. So I guess the theory that he's not leaving the house and is going to another room is correct. Another interesting detail from this trailer is Max's mom's dream, because this episode is called A Fairy Good Night, inviting us to think about dreams like aspirations or childhood dreams. A lot of people have suggested that Max's mom's dream when she was little was probably to go to the moon. Obviously, as we saw in Season 3, she wasn't an astronaut. She drove a bus and then the train, the Star Train. Later, she became an astronaut, and now it seems her dream is about to come true. So that would make sense with the fact that the fight is on the moon because of Max's mom's dream, but also because of Chrysalis's plan. Maybe Chrysalis decides to akumatize her specifically because she knows she has the dream of going to the moon, and it's part of the plan. I mean, the plot really makes a lot of sense, and that would confirm Marinette is Ladybug, right? If Lila pays close attention and sees that Marinette isn't around while Ladybug is fighting in space, that would make it pretty clear. So yeah, those are some things you might not have noticed from the A Fairy Good Night trailer. This episode officially comes out April 18th on Disney Channel, but it'll probably come out earlier on another broadcaster, maybe mid-March, or who knows, maybe even this month, since we already have a trailer. The episode is already done, already finished, so we're just waiting to see when it actually airs.